Prince Harry, his wife Meghan and her mother Doria Ragland were in New York last night for the Women of Vision Awards. Meghan was honoured for her lifelong advocacy for equality. We'll come to that later. And regardless of what you think about that, and I have my views, or the two of them in general, it's clear that they were involved in an incident last night that caused them distress. But just how much went down last night and what exactly happened is now becoming a contentious issue. The couple say they were involved in a, quote, near catastrophic, close quotes, 2-hour car chase at the hands of paparazzi in Manhattan from 10 o'clock to midnight. Sources close to them say they were followed by half a dozen blacked-out vehicles which mounted pavements and skipped red lights. Tonight, The Times reports that Harry told friends it's the closest he's ever felt to understanding what happened to his mother, Princess Diana. A couple for the spokesman for the couple said last night the Duke and Duchess of Sussex and Miss Ragland were involved in a near catastrophic car chase at the hands of a ring of highly aggressive paparazzi. This relentless pursuit lasting 2 hours resulted in multiple near collisions involving other drivers on the road, pedestrians and 2 NYPD officers. While being a public figure comes with a level of interest from the public, it should never come at the cost of anyone's safety. But by contrast, the New York Police Department's statement was, well, it was singularly less dramatic. On Wednesday evening, they said, May 16th, the NYPD assisted a private security team protecting the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. There were numerous photographers that made their transport challenging. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex arrived at their destination and there were no reported collisions, summonses, injuries or arrests in that regard. And then the taxi driver, who at one stage transported the couple for about 10 minutes, has now told the Washington Post he wouldn't call the incident a chase and said he felt safe during the ride. Recollections, as the late Queen once said, appear to be varying. Well, joining me now, journalist and author Petrina Wyatt, Princess Diana's former Royal Protection Officer Ken Wharfe, Talk TV Royal Editor Sarah Hewson, and Editorial Director of the Page 6 column in the New York Post, Emily Smith over in New York. Welcome to you, a stellar panel. All right, Sarah, what do we know? I mean, what we knew was, the first thing we knew was the statement from the Sussexes, very dramatic.
Well, I took a sharp intake of breath when I saw that there was a near catastrophic car chase, and I think many people will have done. Last night they were in New York for a very well publicised event, the Women of Vision Awards, at which Meghan was presented with an award. They left. We've seen footage of them leaving. They got into a black SUV at around 10 o'clock last night. Apparently...
And they were on, just to be clear about the geography, they were on 57th Street in Midtown Manhattan.
Yeah.
And they were travelling to a private residence on the Upper East Side.
Yes.
Now, at that time of night, I've lived on the Upper East Side of Manhattan for years. That's a 5-10 minute journey. So what is baffling me is how this ends up taking 2 hours. Well, wait one second, let's just get
They drove up and down FDR for an hour and a quarter, apparently, trying to evade the photographers. They were staying at an address on the Upper East Side that had been lent to them by friends. They didn't want them to know. I mean, my question now is who were they staying with and didn't want us to know where they were. So trying to evade those photographers, they then ended up at a police station on the 19th precinct where they changed vehicles and they got into a taxi. And as you said, the taxi driver who picked them up, quite extraordinarily, said he was hailed and asked, do you want a fare? And he took them for 10 minutes. He said they seemed scared.
He said there were 2 cars in pursuit at that stage. He didn't feel it was a chase.
No.
And weirdly, he goes off for 10 minutes over a few blocks and then he comes back to where he picked them up.
And then we don't really know.
Other than apparently they got somewhere safely at the end of all this.
They did.
So we've got a map. This is a map of Manhattan there. And you see the southern tip of Central Park is pretty much where they were at this event, getting an award. And then they kind of zigzag up and down for the next 2 hours for reasons that completely baffle me, because I don't know why you would do that. I mean, they've got a security team. Just go where you're going. You're there in 5-10 minutes. All right. You're determined to get in here.
I am determined because I think it is utter torture. I also lived in New York, in the Upper East Side, and I've spoken to 20 New Yorkers, and they're laughing their heads off. It is impossible to have a 2-hour high-speed car chase in New York. The traffic is gridlocked. It's impossible to get a vehicle to go more than 9 miles an hour. It's also impossible for an alleged paparazzi blacked-out car to drive on the pavement without being stopped, arrested, or noticed. The weird thing is that there are no witnesses to this. New York is...
Well, I would put one caveat in here, is that Harry was seen filming out of the car. So we're probably going to get...
Wait a minute, but there are no witnesses to what he's describing as a 2-hour near catastrophic...
We know the police were witnessing it, but the police version is not as dramatic as
No,
that.
the police are saying there were no reports of collisions, no one was arrested.
Yeah.
If it was, as Harry said, with 2 or 3 more paparazzi cars illegally driving on the sidewalk, they would have been arrested.
Well, that would be a crime. So
Exactly.
Ken, I mean, just off the top, since the death of his mother, and I completely understand his pathological hatred of paparazzi after what happened to his mum. I get it, OK? I'm not going to question his right to feel that way about paparazzi generally. It's about what really went on, though, last night, and bearing in mind the context of his court case here at the moment to try and get better protection when he comes over here with his family at the taxpayer expense. There are cynics out there, and they've already been saying it on social media. Is this just him over-egging an incident, which happens probably most nights of the week in Manhattan with celebrities, to try and get what he wants over here?
Well, I think that may be the case, Piers. I mean, but what I'm confused with is this sort of near catastrophic.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
to me, what I see is quite normal for that sort of event. I mean, here he is, a major A-lister, whatever he is, in New York, being pursued by the paparazzi, which is normal. I think what I have...
And it has to be said legal. So under the
Yes.
First Amendment, they're allowed to do this. Now, the question is, if the way they were driving was illegal, that's a different issue, but the police have made clear no arrest. So
Yes, but the
they are
spokesman-
unlike, but the point again, Ken, unlike here, the laws got pretty well tightened after what happened with Diana. You couldn't do this in this country legally, but you can in New York.
Well, no,
Yeah,
you
but-
can't drive on the pavement.
No, I know.
And they're claiming that the paparazzi
I understand that,
did.
but I'm saying that
Yeah, but I think
to
that
actually pursue celebrities as paparazzi in New York is a legal thing to be doing.
Yeah, but Harry and Meghan must have expected this to happen. I mean, he's got this sort of private security business or company, whatever now, who clearly, this is something new to them because from what I observe, they were unable to deal with this problem. Now, in the UK, I mean, for many years when I
They
worked
put
with
them in a taxi,
Well,
a yellow cab.
What-
I mean, what security
interesting
team?
move, but I mean...
What security team in the world put the guy
Well,
who's fifth in line to the throne of England in a random yellow cab with his wife and his mother-in-law, and off they go? I mean, I found that.
Well, this
that
is where
is surely
this
a
is where it
sackable
may
offence,
this is
isn't it?
where he
Well,
may
it's
have a point.
insulting, actually. You wouldn't put Tom Hanks in a yellow cab.
I wouldn't get one. But
Okay, but why then did they put him in a
Right.
taxi? It's obvious to me that the security company looking after him there really don't have the experience to deal with someone
At
as high
all.
profile with him. Now, he knows more than anybody else, the role of the paparazzi. He knows they'll pursue him, and they know that they are what I will say is a nuisance factor at worst. Look, the paparazzi don't kill people. I'm not going to say that. We know what the judgment was in the case of Diana's inquest, where Scott Baker said that she died as a result of a driver over the drink drive limit and a contributory factor of the pursuing paparazzi. But they actually don't kill people. Look, I've got to be very careful what I say here, but, all the years that I looked after Diana and other members of the royal family, never once did we find a problem with the paparazzi. Yes, they're a nuisance factor, but they have to be dealt with.
Well, I
what
think-
happened here is they didn't get dealt
Okay,
with.
but